Hi, welcome back. Great to have you along. This video is just to talk about 2mm stitching, like machine stitched old school Bogu sets, and whether they were like a pile of junk or not, considering modern sets and the way things are changing in the Bogu industry. So this particular set is a set from Nine Circles Limited. Most people in the West know them. They were quite big along with Ibogu through the last sort of decade. And this is, as I said, it's basically this was their 2mm custom machine stitched Bogu set. They retailed for around £795, I think it was when I bought it. Certainly around that area, sort of £700-800 if you had customizations and that sort of thing. So here we're looking at the men, and this is 15 years old, this Bogu set, and it's been my regular Keiko set for 10 or 11 of those years that I've owned it. I had another more basic set before that, but I sold it back to my club when I left South Africa and moved to the UK. Anyway, as you can see here, the thing is, it's still in good condition. You'll notice it's straight stitching all the way across. So there's no like diagonal stitching or anything like that. It's just straight stitch all the way across the men. The striking zone is, of course, reinforced to some degree, but it's had a lot of keiko there, so it's smashed pretty flat. And here we're looking at the tare, and made very much the same way the men is. Again, it's just kind of straight stitching. There's some nice detailing on it, and again, it's a different style from what you'll see these days on the market, but yeah, nothing wrong with it. There's a bit of damage on the obi, but that's from me, like when I was using it as a beginner. I could have packed it away better in my Bogu, and it was sort of chafing against other parts of the tare. So it's become frayed, but it's my own fault rather than the Bogu, being of poor quality or anything like that. So that's the tare. So here we have the door. As you can see, the mune, there's a matching pattern that matches the argo on the men. But otherwise, it's a 50-piece black synthetic door. Nothing particularly fancy about that, but well made. It's been put together really well. At this point, I want to talk about the fixings. So the Chichikawa on the door and the men are original from when I bought the set. So they've held up really well. Again, alluding to the quality, the general quality level of the set is pretty good. The himo actually haven't been changed on the door. They have on the men, but they take more of a beating from kirikaishi. Whereas the door himo, I mean, all you do is tie them. They don't really get hit by anything. Well, I hope they don't get hit. I hope you don't get hit in the back. But in any case, all in good condition. The worst thing that's ever happened is one of the knots came undone for the Chichikawa at a taikai, and we had the tools there to be able to push it through and tie it back up again, so no biggie. But otherwise, yeah, those are the constituent parts. I'll just show you the damage on the men. There's just this one thread that's sort of poked out. Basically, I decided to leave it alone, not to cut it or mess around with it, or just leave it to go naturally. As I said, this is my everyday keiko set. I have another modern set which is for gradings and shiai and high profile visitors and seminars and that sort of thing. But normally this is my bread and butter everyday set. So here's a kote. This kote is not original to this Bogu set, but it's an equivalent one. The only difference with the original set was original set had like a decorative lining inside the fist of the kote, but otherwise it was the same. So you can see it's close machine stitched. It kind of got three sections there for the movement of the wrist. It's kind of divided up again into a couple of sections for the sort of laterally across the fingers, and very thick, very stiff padding section across the forearm. So the futon area, the striking zone, is very, very stiff, very protective. And This is probably one of the best things about this type of set. If you end up with one of these sets, or if you have one, the kote are very good for like daily use. They're not the most comfortable, and they're not the most high performance. They take longer to break in, but you know what? If you're receiving from all kinds of different people all day, people who strike really hard, maybe it's beginners, these are really, really good. Some of the more modern sets I've seen, particularly like Jisengata sets, they'll get you injured. And, they'll be good for like 3 months or maybe 6 months. And then the padding will have compacted. And once it compacts, there's no protection in them whatsoever. Not across the fist section anyway. And that's not the case with some of these old school kind of heavier construction kote. Now, they are very stiff to break in. I'm not going to deny that. But you can actually take a lot of the stiffness out before you use them if you just kind of bend and flex the kote palm itself quite a lot. You can get rid of quite a lot of that before you actually wear them for the first time. So it's really not a big deal. Here's what the set looks like when it's worn in full. First thing you'll notice is the mendare are quite long. By today's standards, this is very old school. But overall, it's got a pleasing aesthetic about it. Particularly if you've watched old videos of like, the likes of like Sumi Sensei and Chiwa Sensei, back in the day, in the 70s, it's that style of set. That's kind of, that's the reason for the longer mendare. Since then, things have changed. You don't have quite as much protection for the back of the head. So the men doesn't extend as far back on modern sets as it does on this set. And as I say, those mendare are shorter on modern sets. So what's it like to use? It's pretty stiff when you first buy a set like this. Downright uncomfortable when you first wear it. Because it is very stiff. It takes a lot of breaking in. Now, I've since learned that if you can be really rough with these, I have a teacher who's Kyoshi Hachidan, who's also a Budogu professional. He makes bogu. And he shows you how to, shape and break in sets like this straight away from day one. And basically, you just get in there with your hands and you knead them like dough and you shape them. And they come right pretty quickly. And he can take you from looking like an absolute clot to looking like your fifth dan in the space of 30 seconds. Or that's how it feels. Maybe a couple of minutes. Maybe 30 seconds is a bit ambitious. But within a couple of minutes, he shows you how to shape your bogu and get it right, basically, straight away. That being said, for most normal people who don't have exposure to that kind of teaching, it's going to be uncomfortable to wear a 2mm straight stitch men like this off the bat. You have to tie it very tight to get it to sit on your head properly, and you're going to get headaches and ear pain and stuff like that and all kinds of things until it breaks in. And it could, realistically, it's going to be about 6 months for it to be sort of broken in. It really could be a year before it's really thoroughly broken in. Depends on how much keiko you do. The door is quite heavy. That's something that's very noticeable now that I have a much more modernized set that's also quite protective. Like a good kilo heavy, that's how it feels. And I used to get a fair amount of back pain wearing this particular door at seminars. But not to the extent where it wasn't manageable, It's just one of those things. I suspect I might get a bit of that back pain anyway, just because you're standing around with armor on all day. But when I tried a more modern set recently to compare it to, you definitely notice the weight come off. The tare, tare is as tare does. Again, it's quite stiff when you buy it. It takes a bit of mucking about and shaping to get it to sit nicely on your body. And if you don't know those skills and how to do that, then it's just going to be break in time. But you don't notice it as much with the tare. It just looks a bit odd because it doesn't quite hug your body as much as it should. But once it's broken in, it's fine. It's plenty protective. Now the men, in terms of protection, you'll notice, as I said, I wear a men protector with this men. Now I would do that for two reasons. The primary reason is because the fitting was off by about 1 centimeter, because, you know, I had to use one of those rubbish diagrams and I didn't quite do it right. And really, they probably should have direct customer service for measurements for all Bogu companies, because getting a good fit is essential. And that's maybe an area where I would have criticized Nine Circles at the time, but they're generally a good supplier. I've bought many things from them and I do trust them with a lot. I got my Yaito from them. I've got numerous sets of Kendogi and Hakama, loads of Shinai off them. You know, they are good, a good trustworthy seller. But in any case, the men is, because it's very close stitching, there's not a lot of place for that energy to go. So this men protector, it does what modern Bogu sets do. It creates air pockets and a bit of like sponginess, extra sponginess. So when you get struck, that energy gets dispersed across a larger surface area. Whereas if it's just with the Bogu on its own, if you get a heavy hitter who hits you with a 2mm stitch set, you're going to notice it, definitely. Now, if they're like a really, you know, like such a heavy hitter that they're going to get in trouble with sensei, I don't think any Bogu set's going to save you from that. So even a modern set, like, it's not a dramatic difference, it's a slight difference from, say, a 6mm set or an 8mm set or something like that, or even a 4mm set. We're talking subtle changes here. It's not like turning the volume from 0 to 10, right? It's like turning it from like 3 to 6. But yeah, overall, I have to say, like, this set's it's good quality. It's lasted me a long time. I'm kind of sad to see it go. This is kind of why I've made this video, because when I went to go and have a look at pricing for this type of set, I actually noticed today that Nine Circles have discontinued all this stuff, and I kind of feel a bit bad. I think what's happened is maybe they've taken a bit of a hit in the market. I don't know, because people are aware of more modern sets. So now they stock this really basic, very cheap looking stuff called the Kyoto range, and then they're like sort of £200-300. I'm always wary of sets that are that cheap, if I'm honest. And then they've got some Tozando kits, which are sort of the 400 to 600 mark, and they're more modern design sets with cross pitch and diagonal stitching and, you know, all those wonderful gubbins. I can't help but wonder if they should have just tweaked what they had here, because this set lasted a very long time and it was very good quality. Just could have been more moldable and more comfortable. And that's it. That's what I wanted to sum up with. So take it easy. Hope you enjoyed the video.